Join me in giving her a great big thanks of applause. Here's Laura Ingraham.
I am so thrilled to be back in Virginia. I spent so many years living here and I'm about to move back into Virginia, and I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. It's a beautiful late spring evening in one of the most beautiful states in our great country. And you guys could be doing anything, and you have children and grandchildren and jobs and lots of needs to attend to, but you showed up. And you showed up for Dave Brat. I have a couple of pieces of bad news to start with. I hope you don't mind. You all are risking audits. And lifetime NSA cell phone surveillance. A little microchip is being implanted. You don't know it right now because you're attending this event tonight. So watch out. The establishment has a long memory. They know who you are, and they're keeping a list. I have a little thought on some of the news of the day. You know, I spent 3 hours on the radio this morning, but I feel like I never have enough time to talk about the issues of the day. So I want to say this, that I was thinking about this prisoner swap, you know, that the president did. You know, well, I kind of wish, in thinking about this, that President Obama would have thought this through a little bit more, and maybe, you know, for getting Sergeant Bergdahl out of captivity, instead of sending like 5 Taliban MVPs over there, he could have just traded one Eric Cantor. Yeah. If you actually really want to help America, right? You know, sending the Taliban back to the battlefield eventually, that's not going to really help us. That's probably going to actually kill some of our people. Sending Eric Cantor back, though, for a little while, and make sure he gets treated well. I mean, that could actually help things, right? It could help our economy, stop so much spending, crazy stuff. People say to me, like, a couple of reporters were here today, and they said, you know, why? Why you're this national radio host, you're television commentator, and a, you know, single mom of these 3 kids, why the heck are you down here in Richmond, Virginia? And here's my answer. Because we're slowly losing our country. Amen. Because the establishment has had its way for election cycle after election cycle, have kicked the electorate to the curb, sold out our values, misrepresented our views, looked down upon the very people who send them to office, and then expect us to get up and applaud for them and send them back to office election cycle after election cycle. And I said to myself, as long as I can still stand, as long as I can still talk, when I'm able to maybe help a little bit, get the word out to the press that frankly, for the most part, has been falling down on its job in the 7th District. Make my voice heard. My mother, God rest her soul, was a tiny woman. She was about 5 foot tall, and she was 100% Polish. And my mother was, all right, good, we got the Poles here. By the way, Poland has been through enough. Can you believe Poland had to deal with Obama yesterday? I mean, come on. Not me, that's just a bad joke. Like Poland, can't they just get a break? You know, President Obama had to come over there. But think about this. We have in Dave Brat someone who decided to inconvenience his life, his family, right? He didn't have to do what he's doing right now. He has a great life as a university professor at a wonderful school, Randolph-Macon, and he has a beautiful family. He wants to spend time with them. And he decided, like so many of our great leaders in the past, to give up a very comfortable existence, at least for a time, to try to make a difference in his country. And I think the fact that you showed up in the great numbers that you did today, we needed a bigger room, apparently, is a great testament to the fact that Americans cannot be held down. for year after year. We will not be told we can't do it. We will not be told that we can't beat China anymore. We will not be told that we can't really enforce the immigration laws as they are right now. We can't. By the way, what are the first 4 letters of Eric's name? Can't. I just thought of that. Just a question for the crowd. You guys are really smart. You follow the news and all that. Who do you think Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi want to win this primary? Which candidate do you think they want to win? Why do they want Eric Cantor to win? They want Eric Cantor to win because Eric Cantor is an ally in the biggest fight that will occur in the next 6 months to maybe even sooner in Washington, which is the fight for immigration amnesty. The little charade that took place 2 weeks ago here in Virginia, it was beautifully choreographed, wasn't it? It was something out of a wonderful Broadway production, Tommy Tune production or something, where you had Luis Gutierrez, who's a very liberal, very charismatic guy from Illinois, and Luis Gutierrez comes down to Richmond, right? And he does a rally of 70 people showed up. How many people do you think are here? 500? That's 70. Okay? Got a lot of reporters though there, right, for Gutierrez? Because Gutierrez has Casa de Virginia, House of Virginia, a lot of immigration amnesty groups holding up signs demanding that Eric Cantor give in to amnesty. That Eric Cantor, you need to do something on amnesty, as if Eric Cantor and Luis Gutierrez hadn't been touring the country together. Okay? It was like Simon and Garfunkel in the 70s. I mean, go on, sounds of silence, if only. All right? As Eric Cantor now is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with the help of big business interests, the Chamber of Commerce, other huge interest groups that have a vested interest in opening up our borders to more foreign workers. And he is very concerned that the people of Virginia are actually going to stand up and fight for their own wages and their own way of life. Not because they're bad people or they don't like immigrants or they're racist or they're anti-Latino or Latina. By the way, I happen to have a Latina daughter. So when someone calls me anti-Latina, I take it very personally. I have this crazy idea, as does Dave Brat, that coming to our country, respecting our laws, our sovereignty, our way of life, and our Constitution is a conditioned precedent to your becoming an American citizen. About Eric Cantor, though, seriously. I mean, I'm a humanitarian at heart. I know I seem like a tough cookie on Fox and everything. I'm a humanitarian. I'm really worried about him, though, right? When you know friends that change. They say they're one thing, and then all of a sudden you turn around and it's like, wait, dude, what's happened here? Yeah, there's something weird going on here. It's like the invasion of the body snatchers with Eric Cantor. Remember back in 2001? I mean, I was all Eric Cantor. I'm in for Cantor. Cantor was the conservative. He's the Reagan conservative carrying the mantle of small government. This debt is out of control. The idea of Eric Cantor voting to raise the debt limit time and again. I mean, did that really cross your mind in 2001 when you voted for him? And he has a beautiful family, wonderful kids. He's, nothing personal against Eric Cantor, but what happened? Oh no, I'm not gonna. No, he has. Oh, yeah, I just read this on Wikipedia. This can't be true, right? Wikipedia is always wrong. But he has a beautiful wife who also happens to be, like my friend Mary Madeline has to deal with this, liberal Democrat, pro-abortion, lifelong Democrat wife. Like, men out there, do you become more like your wives as time goes on? Right? You gotta keep the peace at home, right? You gotta do that. So I'm just saying. I'm just trying to be charitable. I mean, maybe that's it. I think you guys have to be worried, though. Okay, you got to be worried. The establishment always wins. Remember, they told Ronald Reagan that in 1980. Establishment always wins. Well, until it doesn't. Amanda Chase, who is Eric Cantor's former political director, gave a little interview recently, and she told National Review the following. She said that Eric Cantor is going to be hard to beat for 3 reasons. So I'm thinking when I'm reading this, oh wow, she's going to lay out the great policy successes of Eric Cantor, right? That he's done all the stuff and he's great stuff for the success of the state. And all. Here are the 3 reasons she gave. Number 1, he's highly regarded among the GOP establishment. That's number 1. Wow, the same people who told us Romney was going to win in 2012. Great. Yeah, that China would never surpass our economy. Terrific. He has big money support. Okay, number 2, that's the reason he's going to be hard to beat. Well, that's probably true. And number 3, he has name recognition. Now, can't you come to the table with something bigger than that? You have millions of dollars in support from interest groups that think they're going to get a piece of the pie when you get reelected, right? You got big name recognition, and the GOP establishment likes you. My friends, if the GOP establishment is investing millions into your reelection campaign, and they're giving you a big wet kiss and a big bear hug right now, that is the first and foremost reason that you should question that candidate. Dave Brat is a man of courage. If Dave Brat can survive as a conservative at an American university, if Dave Brat can thrive, not just survive, but thrive with a bold approach to teaching and writing and thought and an intellectual curiosity that is not beholden to a political party, but to eternal truth. If Dave Brat can survive and thrive in that atmosphere, look out, Nancy Pelosi. I'm also concerned about Nancy Pelosi because I think in the new rules that HHS is handing down, Botox is now not covered by law. Look, I'm getting up there and I gotta worry about that too. I mean, let's be truthful. Oh, she's a good egg. San Francisco. I've got to be fair, though, to Eric Cantor because, look, he does have a legislative record.
That sucks.
Well, let me just say what he said recently about his views on an important issue. He recently urged President Obama to, quote, ramp up pressure on Russia, noting that Russia was violating Ukraine's sovereignty and borders. Congressman Cantor, what about our borders? Is it maybe time to ramp up pressure on Obama to enforce ours? The same people who are now saying the GOP will die out if it doesn't embrace a new way of thinking. Immigration and amnesty is just the most obvious issue that they're pointing to. If you don't become part of the new citizenship, pathway to citizenship, school of thought, then you're yesterday's news. Those same people are the ones who failed to recognize the housing bubble, Alan Greenspan's silly monetary policies. They're the same people who told us that McCain and Romney and Dole would win election after election. They're the same people who tell us that it didn't matter that our trade deficit with China was ballooning year after year, that trade and globalism and NAFTA and China getting into the WTO was all going to redound to the benefit of the American worker. I submit to you that the very people who are selling us this ridiculous establishment line on issue after issue are the same people who failed to raise the red flag, the warning flag, to the American people on critical financial and foreign policy issues. They failed, and they're failing now in their advice. I'd say fire them, fire their political consultants. think of someone like, I think of someone like an Eric Cantor, and I think of the great promise that he had, right? And look, nobody's perfect, right? We all fall down, we all make mistakes, and this is not a personal thing with him, right? But he did have a real shot. He had a lot of time in the House of Representatives to be the conservative leader for the 7th District of Virginia, not to be the big business leader of the 7th District of Virginia, but to represent his constituents, not to serve the donor class, but to serve the great working class, that lifeblood of this wonderful Commonwealth. He had that opportunity. He could have stood against this insane, persistent raising of the debt ceiling with no conditions. He could have stood against it. Instead, he looked down on those who challenged. He could have stood against this insane idea of engaging with the president who refuses to enforce current law, who has lied to the American people on everything from health care to the ridiculous promises of the stimulus and violating current law with this prisoner swap. He could have stopped this insane conversation about immigration, taken the issue off the table, bucked the Speaker of the House and say, don't you dare. Our people are underemployed and unemployed by the millions. There are more people out of work today than there have been in decades when you consider the true unemployment numbers, not the phony government numbers. And I'm standing with the American workers. I love legal immigrants. I love the immigrant experience. But if we don't shore up our country at home, we are all going down. We're not going to be good to Mexico or El Salvador. This is a cold, hard fact. Everybody up there in the cheap seats, you know it, right? Nosebleed. Look, if Eric Cantor is reelected, heaven forbid, I believe there's a good chance we'll have amnesty by the end of the year. There's some scuttlebutt. I was just heard as I walked in, 5 days after the primary next Tuesday, John Boehner could start work on the path to citizenship, path to amnesty, whatever you want to call it. We know what it is, right? I mean, oh, we're going to enforce the border. They're going to learn English. They're going to pay fines. They're going to do none of those things. They're going to do none of those things. There will be waivers and exceptions and bring the second cousin in and oh, you sob story here, sob story there. I mean, guys, there are enough sob stories across the fruited plains of the United States of America now for legal immigrants, Latinos, blacks, single women, moms who want to work but can't find jobs. I wish the politicians, left and right, forget the political parties, would stand up and tell those American stories, those heartbreaking stories of people who cannot improve their lives despite the fact that they work harder every year, earn less, and their dollar doesn't go as far. Those stories need to dominate the media. In 2008 said this is our time. Remember the great acceptance speech? Historic moment in 2008 when he won. He said this is our time, si se puede, yes we can. I will tell you this, we're at the breaking point in this country. We know what the debt is. We know what Eric Cantor's reaction to the debt this year was, to vote for the Ryan Murray budget bill, which of course blew much in the way of the sequester caps that we had in place. Great thing that actually was accomplished, sequester, spending cuts. I know it hurt a lot of folks in Virginia because of the military deal, but my friends, we have to understand where we are right now. This is not 1999. We are in a hole. And I will say this, by turning out for Dave Brat, a man of great principle and great honor and integrity, you will be the dominant media story in this country for the next week. It will send a shockwave through Washington, D.C. Think about this. Do you want to live in a country where about 100 really rich families control most of the decision making? Or do you want to live in a country where the working people the law-abiding people, the people who honor our founding principles, get a say and have a chance at a better life. I think the latter is good for everybody. It's good for Democrats. It's good for everybody out there. That's what we need, and that's what we have to do. The current GOP leadership needs the little campaign that could to rise up. People said to me, Laura, it could be kind of tough for your brand, right? If things don't go Brat's way. I mean, the polls are, I don't believe, I don't care about the polls. Well, it could be bad that, what if he loses? Was that bad for you? Look, I don't Google myself. I don't care what people say about me. If MSNBC is like mocking me, I consider it a good day. I grew up with 3 older brothers and a mom who was a waitress till she was 74. I come from working people. If I have to clean toilets, next week, that is a job that this American will do, by the way. I'm happy to do it if that's what I need to make money. By the way, these are jobs that Americans won't do. Like, what about all of us who actually did those jobs? Like, I picked blueberries, I did childcare as a kid, I was a waitress, not a very good one, but I was a waitress, got fired twice. I'm not very good in the service industry, let's face it. No, and it wasn't just liberals I was waiting on. There were some conservatives I wasn't serving well either. But, guys, I think it's really time for us also to be, and it's hard sometimes, but to really remember my boss, Ronald Reagan. When he walked into a room, and I was all of 22, right? When I was just junior peon, little speechwriter in the domestic policy shop. And when he would walk into a room, and I'm gonna say figuratively, but it felt like it lit up. There was a special glow, and it was his courage, going back to courage, of his convictions. He knew that there was always going to be people who really didn't much like him. In fact, hated him, thought he was stupid, too old, too this, too that. But he knew that there were truths that will withstand the test of time. And we can only avoid truths either in our own lives or in politics for so long. And then the top boils over, okay? I don't know if we're at that point yet. We're close to it. We're coming close to that. Yeah. So I remember the happy warrior. I miss him every day. I see, and I'm not exaggerating, that happy, positive, can-do spirit in the man of Dave Brat. I'm so proud of him. And remember, when Eric Cantor loses next Tuesday, well, he'll be fine. There are plenty of lobbying firms who are going to want him to work for them in the near future. And maybe it's just time that some of these kind of long-term politicians have to do what the rest of you have to do. Get a real job. Yeah. I am finally going to say this one thing. We have an amazing country and an incredible tradition. I know so many of you commemorated Memorial Day just recently, as did my family. And we've been through much worse than this. I know sometimes it doesn't feel like it, like, oh, the press is always against us. We can't get our message out. Look at the demographics of the changing country. People are just tuning out to politics. They're not paying attention to what's happening. It's easy to get defeatist. But what I'll tell you tonight is, there's no reason to be defeatist, right? You believe in eternal truths, right? You believe in, and many of you are faithful people, you believe in the Almighty. I do. Amen. Oh, yeah. Amen. And I think that He has big plans for us. Yeah, let's give Him a round of applause. Yeah, someone said to me the other day, I was walking down the street, she said, I hope that we don't live in a country one day where they don't allow you to wear this on TV. And I said, I mean, my old friend Chuck Heston, out of my cold dead neck, they're going to have to take this. Now, be of good cheer. What the left and the establishment GOP want to do is paint you as a bunch of people who don't love but hate, who don't have a positive sense of the future, who are negative and cynical, and don't have a real sense of joy about life. I do. I look in my children's eyes. I left them today. They said, Mommy, where are you going? Where are you going? Why aren't you coming home tonight? I said, I'm trying to save America. And my daughter Maria, who's 9, said, okay, see you tonight. She's like, that's Mom. See you tonight. But be of good cheer, right? You're only going to win if you have that sense of optimism and that sense that we have been through much worse. Think of Ronald Reagan, Bill Buckley, Phyllis Schlafly, Brent Bozell Sr. in 1965-66. The country was in decline. The 60s were upon us. Vietnam malaise, moving into Watergate. The Republican Party was pretty much a washout. The establishment was just in a mess. And they kept their heads down and they kept going. And they knew that ultimately this thing would turn. I believe that. I believe we're reaching that point again. There's going to be a realignment in politics. I think some people on the left, believe it or not, are going to work with us on some issues. I welcome that. I'm looking for ways to work with everything from my cause of adoption to issues of trade. We might come at it from a different point of view and maybe even for different reasons, but that's okay. In the end, if we get to the same place, so what? What's wrong? Look, I'd rather work with some people on the left today than work with some people in the GOP establishment who spit at us. A one-woman drone tonight, and with lethal force. I don't want to keep going on, but I will say I wouldn't come down here unless I thought this was critically important, unless I believed in 100% in this man, Dave Brat, who I've gotten to know his family. These are good people, and they know how hard it is. And when people even around who are surrounding Dave say, Dave, it's going to be tough. You know, the polls are tightening, but they have so much money. I just saw him in the other room. He said, the people are with us. Amen. People count, money doesn't. Dave Brat, my friend, in the next congressman from the 7th District of Virginia.
Let me tell you what she's done that I could not do alone. She has cracked open the media juggernaut that we've been fighting, the media that will not give us a fair race. And now we got a superstar coming down here. She's cracked it wide open. And now the media can no longer hide. The Richmond Times-Dispatch is going to have to cover this race. You've all seen the editorial page of the paper lately. Eric Cantor is getting national notoriety for the negative campaign he's running. The most untruthful campaign, the most deceptive, the most vicious that the national media is calling it. And
wonder where you learned that from.
Yeah, right. And the media, our own paper, they tried to create kind of a moral equivalence between my nasty campaign and his nasty campaign. We're all on the same footing, right? We've all tried to be positive in this campaign. We've looked to hope and higher principles. And so again, I want to thank my hero right here, Laura Ingraham, for making all of this possible tonight. Everyone repeat after me. When is election day? June. All right? I need 2 things from you today. I'm going to do this ahead of time. They always get mad. I'm bad at asking people for stuff. If we have 500 people in this room tonight, and I only need about 25,000 votes to win, do the math on that. You all go get 50 people. Now you can't get to 50 people in this room. You all go get 50 new people, and I'm your new congressman. That and $20. Well, very good. I wasn't going to introduce myself, but let me say just a few words about who I am and what I'm about, because I think that matters to the story that's about ready to come. And then because Laura's with us tonight, I want to give a few special remarks on amnesty, which is the key pivotal issue of the day. And Eric Cantor has just did a 180 flip-flop on that in the last 2 weeks. Totally unprincipled move. So I'm Dave Brat. I'm from the Midwest originally. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay, good. From the Midwest, went to Hope College, a small liberal arts school, kind of like Randolph-Macon College, where I teach right now. Had a few great mentors, and I always wanted to be one of those good guys. So that's the path I was on. Worked in the business world at Arthur Anderson in Detroit, in Chicago for a little bit, and then I felt the call to seminary one distinct day in Detroit, and made my way to Princeton Theological Seminary, not knowing exactly what to expect, but I was following the Almighty like Laura said to do, and I tried to do that on a daily basis. And so I went there. So I went up to seminary, and I went on a political term down to Wesley Seminary in D.C. next to American University, and caught the political bug a little bit. The minister class is a great group of people, but they don't know one thing. They don't know a supply and demand curve. And so I helped educate them a little bit, and I saw my future calling there to put ethics and religion together with economics. Excuse me. How many of you think we need to bring a little ethics to Washington, D.C.? Went on from seminary to get my PhD in economics at American University, and had some great years up there. Most importantly, met my lovely wife, Laura. Where's she hiding now? Give her a round of applause. Candidate, this thing is harder than you might imagine. It's like fighting the Death Star in Star Wars with a jackknife, right? And I want one more round of applause for my wife, Laura. She has supported me the whole way. Good. So I got my PhD. I moved down here with Laura. We got 2 kids. I've been at Randolph-Macon teaching economics and ethics for 18 years. I chaired the department for the last 6 years. I worked on the notorious Governor's Advisory Board of Economics. Lie number 1. I don't have that lie up here. I could only hold so many. Let me, for the new folks here, that's a serious thing, and you need to communicate with people. So I'll give you the facts. I serve on a revenue estimate committee. It meets once a year. Every prominent Republican serves on that, the head of the Senate, the head of the House, all the business titans. Eric Cantor, it's just a bald-faced lie. And tell your neighbors Eric Cantor's lying, and if you want the majority leader of the United States Congress to be a liar, just keep it the way it is. But that I just want to give you the truth on that one, and that's a bunch of bull. I'm also on the Governor's Board of Accountancy. I'm on the RMA board down here, and I've worked for the General Assembly about the last 7 or 8 years on education policy in the state Senate, primarily focusing on kids with disabilities, and in the higher ed STEM areas, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so that's enough on me. I'm here for you. I'm asking to be your representative. And so why am I running? I'm running because Washington, D.C. is absolutely broken from head to toe. Yeah. A couple words on that. I don't want to keep you here till breakfast in the morning, but I do want to lay out the case because I think it's important. And so what do I mean when I say Washington, D.C. is broken? The financial system is broken. Fannie and Freddie made 2/3 of all subprime mortgages. Bankers should do that. No one up in D.C. seems to know what free market economics is, including Eric Cantor, and they got to go. They've almost ruined our country. Right? That financial crisis brought this country to its knees. Started in the housing sector. That was the only asset we hadn't screwed up. We screwed it up. Then that's built over onto Wall Street, the financial sector, and then it's spread into every one of your businesses. How many here run a small business? The whole room, right? That's That financial crisis ruined this country, took the stock market to half its value, and hurt all of us. And we could have done better if we had people with principle up there who aren't given special breaks and TARP bailouts and special tax credits to billionaires instead of taking care of us, right? The normal folks back in the district in Virginia. So the financial sector's broke, the economy's broken, we're now growing at -1%, right? Yep. We're shrinking again, we're becoming European, the arteries are corroded, we're becoming sclerotic, it's not good. The healthcare system, Obamacare, is absolutely a disaster. We need to repeal and get rid of it immediately. Very interesting on this one, right? Somehow Obamacare is the law of the land. Eric Cantor's majority leader in the Congress, I said he fully funded Obamacare, and the paper says I'm lying. Go figure, right? So somehow it was voted in, and it's fully funded by Congress. The last time I checked, doesn't Congress have the power of the purse? Yeah. So keep your eye on that paper and write more letters in by the day over the next week to keep them honest. When the people holler, they pay attention. And we got a room full of hollering people here. And so write a few letters and let's set it all straight. Thank you upstairs, that was very good. Most concerning of all is probably the rule of law is broken, right? Amnesty is hinged on that premise that we're a nation of laws, not a nation of men. I'm running on the 10th Amendment. My goal is, along with James Madison, who also went to Princeton Seminary and learned about human nature the right way from the Bible, he knew how to design a constitution and separate powers, right? And so I'm running on constitutional principles, and specifically the 10th Amendment has been overrun. There are certain enumerated powers in the Constitution allowed for the federal government. We need to bring everything else back down to the states Let me give you just a flavor of now, just a brief contrast between the two visions between Eric Cantor and myself. I'm not going to go into it all. I'm happy to take questions at the end a little bit if you want to go further. But there's a very clear contrast here, and Laura spelled it out perfectly, right? Just brilliantly laid out what is at stake. There is just one party up in D.C. right now, right? It's not Republicans and Democrats. It's one party. It's the power party, and it's the money party, and that's what's going on. So I can describe Eric Cantor's vision very easily, and it's described perfectly by the Chamber of Commerce, right? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is the big business guys, and then the Business Roundtable. Every single decision Eric Cantor makes is exactly what the Chamber wants him to do. And how do you know that? Look at Obamacare. Who gets exempted from Obamacare? Big business, right? Do you get exempted from Obamacare? No. And who else gets exempted? Labor unions and congressional staff. You can't make this stuff up, right? The second principle in the Republican creed is equal justice and equal treatment under the law. How's that going for you? It's a disaster, right? There's not two classes of people in this country. There's one class, and we're all called Americans, and I'm proud to be an American with you. Let me go a little bit more into Eric's agenda and the Chamber agenda. The Chamber wants one thing, and this is not my opinion. The chairman of AT&T wrote up these comments last January. I looked at my wife over coffee one morning. I said, I can't believe it. They just wrote my stump speech for me. And they actually put it out in public, right? The Chamber of Commerce wants four things. Their growth agenda is made up of four things. I'll just cover two of them with you. One, they want stability in Washington, D.C. Right? They want stability. And what does that mean? They want stability so they can make profits, right? Well, I'm pro-business, I'm pro-profits, that's good for them, but what does that really mean? When they say they want stability, that means they want to kick the can down the road on every single issue that's important to us, right? And so what does that mean? The debt and deficits are $17 trillion and counting. The unfunded liabilities are $127 trillion. Go to the bottom of the debt clock, add it all up, Medicare, Social Security, Bush prescription drug plan, and Medicaid. $127 trillion that we're passing on to who? This young lady right here and the youngsters I teach every day. That's a disaster. Economics is kind of tough, and this crowd has a harder job than the liberals, right? The liberals just promise everything to everybody on a daily basis. That's not fiscal responsibility. We know better, and to provide for the next generation, we better get it right soon. And so Eric's principles, he follows the chamber on kicking the can down the road on that, and he also follows that logic on all the other issues as well, in a negative sense. Is the chamber, think about this, is big business interested in the fact that many of you, Tea Party members, grassroots folks, have been targeted by the IRS? No. Is Eric Cantor at all interested in the fact that the United States government is coming after some of you? No. Are you concerned that the United States government is coming after you? Yes. You ought to be concerned, right? Eric Cantor has had an amazing metamorphosis in the last 2 weeks. Now he's on these flyers, right? I got these flyers, I should hold them up every 5 seconds. Now he's saying he's in the lead, keeping the Tea Party safe. It's in print, it must be true. And he's looking out for you, and he's protecting you from the IRS. Some of you raise your hand. Yeah, he's not looking out for you. He is looking out for his cronies up there, and that's it. And the evidence, there's more evidence, and many people in this room know what it is. It's called slating. How many of you know what slating is? Yeah. Eric Cantor and his 2 PACs, one's called ERIC by just crazy logic. ERIC stands for Every Republican is Crucial, except for the ones he slates off. He's gone around the district, and this is serious business, right? I mean, you can differ on policy issues, but when you do not let Americans take part in their own political process, that's bad news. That's what Laura's getting at, right? This is not some little policy discussion. This is someone is doing some very bad stuff, and we got to get rid of them soon. He's slated people that believe in American principles, right? In the Constitution, the diehards who believe in American principles, that's the people he wants to kick out of the political process. And then he puts out a flyer saying he's in favor of the Tea Party and the grassroots and the constitutional people. And so start spreading the news to all your neighbors soon. The Chamber of Commerce also wants one other major thing, and that's amnesty. Right? And Laura covered that brilliantly, and I'm going to give some formal remarks on that in a minute because the press is here and I want to lay that out very clearly. But amnesty in a nutshell is very simple. Big business gets cheap labor, and what do you get? Low wages, right? You get no jobs, you get low wages. The median wage rate's been falling. Your family can't pay the bills. Small business people every day come up to me at this talk in 9 counties in the city, and the small business people are getting crushed. Right? And in the midst of those labor markets, right, people can't get jobs. My college kids, very hard to get jobs. The vets are coming back. They can't get jobs. And in the midst of that situation, Eric Cantor has the nerve to go after amnesty and cheap labor by the crony capitalists. It's un-American. We got to get rid of them. June 10 is the day to do it. In contrast to Eric, I'm running on the Republican creed. I'm going to go over that very briefly with you today. The press is stymied, right? The press can't figure out who I am, right? It's very mysterious to them because they don't know this thing called reporting. There's a thing called reporting. And so Eric Cantor is calling me a liberal with $2 million. Well, that's a lot of press coverage, right? So $2 million calling me a liberal. That could be convincing if you're a low information voter. This room is full of high information voters who know better. And so some folks are calling me a liberal. The Washington Post and the AP is calling me the Tea Party candidate. And every stump speech, and I share the Tea Party principles because they're the same thing as the Republican principles. There's only one thing wrong with the Republican principles. The Republicans don't follow them. Right? Over them kind of rapid fire. fire so you all know them. I believe in them. They're all solid as a rock. Number one is they say they believe in free markets. Do you know what free markets are? They're free. No one gets a special deal, right? No one gets a tax credit. No one gets a tax deduction. Everyone's treated equally. It's American, right? And I'm not some for-profit guy, right? Just for massive accumulation. When I say free markets, I'm very serious about that, and they're linked to the most precious ideals we hold as Americans. Free markets are also linked with freedom. And how do we get that freedom? It came uniquely out of the Judeo-Christian tradition, and I'm so proud to be a part of that tradition. What does that tradition believe when it comes to rights? How did we get that tradition? Was it just an accident? No. That the Judeo-Christian tradition has always believed in the freedom of the human conscience. God could have created a bunch of robots, but he did not. He created you and me with a free will, right? And the First Amendment is pretty good on this, right? So that Judeo-Christian tradition provides freedom of conscience, and then years and years and centuries later, in about 1400, this new term emerged called rights. Rights emerged about 1400, and then a few centuries later, we were blessed with just unbelievable geniuses and people who I think were divinely inspired. James Madison, who penned our Constitution of the United States. Adam Smith at 1776, that date ring a bell, is the author of Free Markets. And that combination of the Judeo-Christian tradition, along with the rule of law, the United States Constitution, and free markets, has made us the envy of the world and the richest nation on the face of the earth.
That's right.
Eric Cantor couldn't be further off. He's the opposite of free markets, right? What's he in favor of? He's voted for the Farm Bill for the big guys. He's voted for the Flood Insurance Bill for the big guys. He's voted for the Export-Import Bank for the big guys, right? Just billion-dollar transfers. He's voted for TARP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every bailout to U.S. banks, to international banks. He's bailed out everybody except the American worker, right? And the American worker gets the shit. Second plank of the Republican creed is and calls for equal treatment under the law. I've been talking about it all night. Equal justice for everybody. And Eric Cantor, after the financial crisis, when this nation is on its knees, there's a nice piece of legislation going through called the Stock Act. Stop trading on congressional insider information. Eric Cantor single-handedly stops that bill and changes it so that his own family members can still do insider trading. Right? And you go Google this. Eric Cantor's folks are saying I'm lying. I'm saying he's lying. Someone's lying. Right? Go Google it. Go Google CNN and the Stock Act and look it up. The head of the Ethics Committee for the House and the Senate is in quotes. Eric Cantor changed it for his family members. I went back and did my homework to make sure I'm telling the truth at all times because I take it serious. And that right there, that move of Eric Cantor on the Stock Act, that is grounds for what? Removal from office, right? Third principle that I'll spend a little bit of time on is called fiscal responsibility. How are we doing on that one? It's a joke, right? 17 trillion in debt, 127 in unfunded liabilities, 127 trillion. And a lot of people still say, Dave, you're being so mean, be nice to Eric. You know, just wait till we take the Senate, and then they're going to do everything right. You believe that logic? You should not believe that. And why shouldn't you believe it? Because the Republicans had the House and the Senate and the presidency in 01. Eric Cantor voted for debt ceiling increases in 01, 02, 03, 05, 06, 07, whatever, right? He voted for 10 of the last 14 debt ceiling increases. And this past January, he was one of only 28 Republicans to vote for the debt ceiling increase. Did you get that one? One of only 28 Republicans to vote with all the Democrats for the debt ceiling increase. Right? So Laura had it just right. What's going on? The debt just keeps going up and up and up and up. They all are very clever. They'll come up with all sorts of excuses, but all you got to do is look at the number. The debt is going up and up and up, right? Without exception. Fourth is constitutional adherence. I've talked about that. The fifth principle is that peace is best preserved through a strong national defense. Ronald Reagan is the optimist. Republican creed is a belief in God, and a belief in the faith of our founders, and the knowledge that those two things will produce the moral fiber that's necessary to continue this experiment we call the American dream and the constitutional republic we hold dear. I take that very seriously, and all I got to say on that is this strong moral fiber. Right? I hope you share. A lot of people just say, Dave, that's just politics. No, that's just your life, right? That's our life, and that's our republic. It's not just politics, and so I take that pretty seriously, right? So Eric Cantor's promise of citizenship to illegal immigrants has opened the floodgates on the border. How many of you saw the Washington Times piece this week? We expect 60,000 kids now, because of the Kids Act, to come over the border, right? 60,000 kids. Their parents are sending the kids without the parents. And so now the kids become wards of the federal government. They cost $250 a day. And now there's this humanitarian crisis we have to deal with. Now, what policy caused that? Eric Cantor's Kids Act, right? So this is not a compassionate move to have 6,000 kids flowing over the border. It's terrible for the kids, right? I teach third world economic development. Right? The day you want kids being taken care of by a federal government, or by Caesar, in other words, it's a tragedy. It's not good policy. And so think of it in those terms, right? And let me give you the basic principle, because I went to seminary. I love all people throughout the world, right? The Chinese are finally growing. The Indians are growing because they have free markets. A lot of kids do want to come in this country. I can see why. We're the greatest country on earth. And why is that? Because we have the rule of law, right? Should we weaken what's made us great? Should we weaken the rule of law? Absolutely not, right? If you want to help those kids, and Eric Cantor studied little economics, what you would do is help those countries get rid of the dictators and head up a strong rule of law in those countries. They get rich, they trade, we all get rich together. And that's the way the world's supposed to operate, right? Somebody like Ronald Reagan would have understood that clearly. Fishes and loaves. It's that simple. Eric Cantor has repeatedly, over and over, promised citizenship to those who enter our country illegally. Many of us have been shocked to find Eric Cantor's lies about his own pro-amnesty record, and I wish I could call him something other than that, but they're just lies, right? 2 weeks ago, he was the leading architect of the House principles for amnesty. And now he's against it, and he's calling these folks illegal aliens in these flyers, right? It's immoral beyond comprehension. The key to it is Virginia workers are suffering, right? The only thing Eric Cantor cares about is delivering low-wage jobs to his crony capitalists up in D.C. Virginia wages have fallen $4,000 per household over this time period that Eric's been in office. And so therefore, I'm talking to the press tonight. I hope everyone is here. I've called on Eric Cantor to release the names of the corporate lobbyists he is working with on immigration. And of course, he has refused that call. And so I'm going further. I'm asking the media, everyone here tonight in the media, hold Eric Cantor accountable for selling our district to his corporate backers. Specifically, ask him to release the names of the wealthy immigration lobbyists who are more important to him than his own constituents, you the people sitting here today in front of me. Cantor drafted the House Leadership Amnesty Plan. He wrote it. According to the Wall Street Journal, that plan contains the same core elements as the Obama-Reid immigration plan. You want to know what Eric Cantor says about the Obama-Reid plan? He's against it. He wrote the House principles that are the same, approximately, according to the Wall Street Journal, as the Senate plan. He's against his own plan. You can't make it up. Right? He's got $2 million, and that's all he's got. right? And if I got 25,000 voters, that wins. That's what we need. Let me point out one more principle. Eric Cantor has never mentioned one word about one thing that's very important. He's completely beholden to corporate interests. He has not spent any time or one word talking about the unemployed Virginia workers right here in his own district. Have you heard him?
No.
Nothing. Not one thing. He even praised the Chamber of Commerce guest worker proposal that drives down our wages across the district. There is no lie that Eric Cantor will not tell. And I don't like to say that about someone. I don't consider that a negative campaign. But there's no lie that he won't tell in these flyers. This one right here says that I'm going to cut your grandmother's Social Security. And it's laughable, except he's sending this out across the district, right? That is a lie. He can't even get the ad right. So there's no deal he won't cut. There's no arm he won't twist to deliver what? Low-wage jobs to you, the workers in this district, right? In exchange for what? Cheap labor to the business guys up in D.C. That is no deal, and we're going to vote him out of office on that. This is for the press and you as well. A vote for Eric Cantor is a vote for open borders. A vote for Eric Cantor is a vote for amnesty. You got that one? If you vote or your neighbor votes for Eric Cantor, they are voting for amnesty, and they know it. There's another news press release out that just came out that says 5 days after this primary election, June 10, the House under Boehner and Cantor is already thinking about what? Amnesty. Turning the corner again. So he flip-flops this way, and then he flip-flops that way. That is not leadership. A vote for Cantor is a vote to sell America to the highest bidder. In sum, Eric Cantor saying he opposes amnesty is about the same as President Obama saying he opposes Obamacare. Right? It is a laughingstock and a farce. Eric Cantor, in fact, is the most pro-amnesty Republican in Congress of the Republicans, at any rate. So I'm here for one big reason tonight, and this is the fun part, where I get to humbly ask you to support me. I would be so honored to be your representative, and that is the job, right? The job is to represent you, and I take that seriously. I've made a few pledges in this campaign as I've gone around from county to county to county. One pledge is I pledge I will meet with people from every county and the city of Richmond once a month. I also pledge to put in a bill for term limits, and I will term limit myself. Put in a bill to end the crony capitalism up on K Street. I'm going to promise to put in either a fair tax or a flat tax for the end of And with those pledges, people say, what are you going to do when you go to Washington, D.C.? What will set you apart from Eric Cantor? And the basic answer is I'm going to tell the truth to the people because I love you guys. I ask for your support tonight. I hope you can all go knock doors. I know this is the greatest country on the earth, and it will always be. As Laura said, we need a happy warrior. Hopefully that's who I can be. I will speak truth up there to power. I will speak up to President Obama. I'll take on the hard decisions, and I'll fight for you on a daily basis because my faith is up there. God bless all of you, and God bless you.